And
Cut the school budget in half.
Well, that's not where the problem is this year.
hello?
I know,
Can you hear me?
both of them.
Hi, how are you?
No, the
Yes.
budget only
So we're waiting for Cheryl?
20 cents.
All right, and I'm gonna put you over to the selectmen in a few minutes when we start the meeting.
For, up to 254. All, $2.20.
I think that was just on your desk.
Okay.
So I can take this,
Why,
this.
every
This is
town
just-
has to buy brand new equipment.
Because they don't maintain them.
Oops.
That's certainly true here.
5 years of that.
Okay,
I know.
You.
I do not care.
What?
I
Big
just
part
wanted
of
to
it.
ask you,
There's a lot of stuff
if
we
you were
don't
going to be
need that
able
we
to do
have.
some sort of
Part of the cost, but not part of the,
put
detriment.
into our annual report. Is that something that you do?
What kind of letter? Because typically, you know, we have many clients that put a couple of excerpts from the audit.
I'm not sure. I can send you a copy of what we received from COAS, so you have some idea.
Well, absolutely, we can probably mirror exactly what it is.
Great.
okay, it's 5 o'clock.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, you guys all signed out on all your payrolls?
Well, I came in too late, Mr. Chairman, I had other things in my office, so there's 2 signatures on all the checks. There's a couple of checks that only had 1 signature, and I signed off
Linda, are
on
you
them.
comfortable with the
Yes.
signatures? Okay. And the minutes, did you sign off on?
I signed off on those, Mr. Chairman, yes, sir.
Okay. Driveway permit for O'Connell and Dory, we signed that, that's good. Tax refund for Ingalls, that's signed out. Intent to cut for Davis. The DOT agreement on the Feshtown Bridge.
Well, I put a note on it, Arnie,
Yeah.
for everybody, it just says rescheduled for the 12/1 Zoom meeting.
Hang on, I was listening to that. Go ahead, say that again.
Rescheduled for the 12/1 Zoom meeting. So we're not gonna talk about that tonight.
I second that motion.
This is the engineering study.
No, it's the DOT agreement for the Frescoes Bridge.
This is the one that talks about a $900,000 plus bridge, almost, in my simple mind, that's almost $1 million
It is.
for a bridge.
But you need to meet with Chris first before you can sign off on that
Okay,
agreement. So that's why I said
I get
it's
you.
rescheduled.
Yes, he's, next meeting or a meeting.
Jordan has been heading this up, so he's the database on this. So
Yep, so I talked to Chris today. He needs to get together to go over the options for these bridges. There's a few different
Yeah.
ways to do it. So he needs to.
ways to do it engineering wise?
Well, remember, there's
Right.
3 different options, yeah, engineering wise.
Right.
So we have to decide and go through what he's gone through with DES and such. So he wants to set up a meeting. He wanted to do it tonight, we were full. So we can either do a special meeting before 2 weeks, or he can do the next meeting. And he offered to do it through Zoom, so that makes it a little easier.
Are you comfortable with the Zoom meeting?
Oh, yes, sir, yes, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, yes.
Okay.
So we can either do a special one, or we can wait for 2 weeks and do it then. He didn't care.
Okay. So when does he want to set it up?
It's up to you guys.
Oh, it's up to us?
We can wait 2 weeks if we want to and just make it the next
So we
meeting.
gotta do to do this, we gotta notify maybe 24 hours in advance to do the Zoom meeting, or?
Yeah, if we're gonna do an outside of a regular meeting, we do.
Right. Okay. we should probably, is there a time, crunch on this at all?
He didn't mention one, he said that it could wait till next meeting if we wanted, or if we wanted to do it in between, we can do it in between. So if you wanna have it,
You're closer to the project than I am, if there's a time crunch, we should do a separate meeting.
it doesn't sound like there's a time crunch.
Okay.
And I think it's gonna take a while, because there's all those options to go through, and then, you know, this option, you have to donate money to this environmental fund, remember all that? So he has to walk us through that process, and we have to decide.
12/1 is our regular meeting day anyway.
Yeah, so it's probably too much for a meeting like this. Sounds like it's gonna be about an hour, 2-hour meeting.
I don't know if it'll be a 2-hour meeting, but I think he's gonna lay out, like, there's 3 options, I think. And he's basically gonna give us 2 to choose from and walk through how that works. Remember when they had sent us all those reports in the past? They had so.
No, I'm just.
Then he had to negotiate with DES as to whether one of them was even an option, so he has that information now to tell us what we can do.
Okay.
Just give me 24 hours and I could notify the public.
Okay. What's a good time for you? I think we should do it sooner than the next meeting.
Anytime, you know, late afternoon, early evening is fine for me.
Okay. It's good for you?
Right now, most any evening, you know, late afternoon, evening.
The next 2 nights I am busy. I can do Friday next.
Next 2
Okay,
nights.
Friday is not good because they're cleaning the office on Fridays.
We could just do next Tuesday, like a meeting.
Yeah, let's do a meeting next Tuesday.
The 24th? What time?
You wanna do it right here instead of do it Zoom?
If he'll come in, if he wants to do Zoom, then we can still
Where's
set up.
Chris? Chris is coming from the Maine, New Hampshire border.
Yeah,
Comment.
it's a Wednesday.
Yeah, so let's do a Zoom meeting, okay?
What time, Mr. Chairman?
Why don't we do it at 4, what time do you finish up work?
Around 4.
4? Is 4 too soon,
I mean, a little later would be nicer.
or 5?
5.
5, is that okay, Homer?
Yes?
I have to float that by Chris anyways, so I'll send that through the email chain.
Okay, why don't you guys, like you two plan that up and then confirm with everybody else, okay?
All right.
So the 24th.
November, yep.
Jordan, did he say that basically still on schedule for Crossroad and Freston, one would be, last time I talked to him, or we talked, he said one would be, probably the late summer, fall of 2021, and the other one would be the spring of 2022, is that still on?
I have not heard of any change to that schedule. That was a change to that point.
Right, and I didn't know if it was still there because, just
Yep.
because of the whole,
Yeah, he had to meet with DES to go over these options, and I
Right.
think that took a while to get through.
right.
So
I
then,
just wonder if he'd said if we're still on track, because I really hope we are.
I keep checking in, and he has not mentioned that he's waiting for us for anything. So, should still be on track.
Okay.
Yeah, I have Tyler Payne from Plaza in Sanderson to give a free exit conference, I guess, about the audit. So, face it to you. Where do you want me to face it to? I don't know.
Maybe we can put it in a corner to face it to, Tyler, hang on, we gotta find out where to place it. How about right over,
No worries.
how about right over on that, chair, that way everybody can look at it.
Okay. Yeah?
Yeah, and just turn it a little bit to the other.
Okay, you've got all the select.
Tyler, you got the whole,
So what are you doing this evening?
we're doing good.
I'm just adjusting my view here. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be looking back and forth a little bit here because I've got the report up on one side and you guys on the other. So I just kind of wanted to start by going over, I don't know if you guys have the draft report or the audit report in front of you? No?
No.
No worries, okay. So now I'll kind of hit some high points then. Basically, I just wanted to discuss, what our responsibility is as auditors and management as well, and these are paragraphs directly from our audit report, so I'm just gonna read them off verbatim to you guys. TIC management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This includes the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to error or fraud. And now our responsibility as auditors is to express an opinion on these financial statements based on our audit. We conducted our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America. Those standards require that we plan, perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement, whether due to error or fraud. And then just to summarize the overall opinion on the financial statements of the town, they received unmodified opinions across the board, which is the best that you can receive. Modified means that there's something either lacking, something missing, something wrong. So from our standpoint, we had, the town had the cleanest opinion they can possibly receive. So just wanted to highlight a couple of things about the audit. It's reported under 3 different bases of accounting, but the most important thing for you guys as elected officials and what you're used to seeing is the budgetary basis, and that's what you report to the state of New Hampshire. That's what you use to adopt your budgets on an annual basis. So those reports can be found Schedule 1, 2, and 3 in the audit, and those are from pages 26 through 28. And basically, I just wanted to highlight the overall change in your unassigned fund balance that you guys use for tax rate setting purposes. You guys started the year with $565,249,000. You had voted to use $100,000 to reduce the tax rate. You had set aside $12,663 for some kind of appropriation, typically capital reserve related, I expect. And then considering your overall revenue surplus, you received more than you anticipated by about $34,000. You spent less than your appropriation on the expenditure side by about $64,000, which overall created a budgetary surplus of about $100,000. And at the end of the year, you close with an unassigned fund balance of $553,147, which I would say is positive considering that you elected or expected to use or reduce your fund balance by about $112,000 that year. Any questions so far?
No, you're pretty clear. Any questions from the audience? No? No? Okay, no, there's no questions here.
Good, I'll just keep moving along. So the next basis of accounting, left familiar for you guys, is on Exhibit C1 and C3. Those are pages 5 and 7. Differences between that and what you guys have for your tax rate setting purposes is under GASB pronouncements, the school tax liability and the related assets that would be used to pay that liability are removed from your general fund because they're technically considered a custodial fund. You're holding or collecting taxes on behalf of those other governmental units. So they strike that out. Additionally, they combine funds that are primarily supported by the general fund, so your library and your expendable trust. And then furthermore, the last difference is any property tax revenue that has not been collected within 60 days of the fiscal year end is considered unavailable and is taken out of your revenue. So that it's a required presentation under GASB. I know it can be kind of confusing, but that information can be found on pages 5 and 7. And additionally, on page 19, there's what's called the budgetary reconciliation, which kind of highlights some of those changes to show, okay, here's what our revenue was on a state tax rate setting basis, and here are all the changes to show it on this modified accrual basis. And it does the same thing for the expenditure side as well. Moving on to the last basis of accounting is more familiar to like the corporate rule. It's called the full accrual. And basically the difference with this one, it includes your long-term assets and your long-term liabilities. Long-term assets are your capital items, machinery, equipment, vehicles, infrastructure. I don't think you have any water or sewer lines or anything like that, but just as an example. Long-term liabilities, can be bonds or notes payable. The town currently doesn't have any of those items, but you have capital leases, for lease to own type equipment, and you also have compensated absences payable, which is basically a liability that's reflected based on potential payouts of either vacation or sick time that's owed to an employee at your end. And this is all kind of based on your policy, how you pay that out and how you accrue it. So those are the big bases of accounting, the big points of the audit report. And on page 6 and 8, these are additional reconciliations that kind of walk you through the changes from the modified accrual to the full accrual account. And the last thing I want to just bring you guys on light on is just any potential changes going forward that might impact your financial statements, determined by the Standard Setting Board, Government Accounting Standard Board, GASB. Nothing really significant for you guys that you have to be concerned with. There's a little bit of a reporting change in regards to capital leases, but that's something that we would be assisting you guys through anyway, so it's nothing really that you'd have to plan for.
What do you mean, could you just explain that a little deeper on your last comment? What are the
So
potential,
basically, ASB 87.
what's potential? Go ahead.
Can you repeat that for me?
What are these potential liabilities? I'm always curious on those.
Sorry, I may have misspoke. It's gonna change how a certain liability that would be existing is reported. It's more of a terminology change, so you already have capital leases, but they would be called security lending transactions in the future going forward.
Oh, okay, so you're changing the definition, okay.
It's mostly terminology, looking at it from what would impact you guys, nothing really new liabilities or anything like that.
Thank you, I just didn't understand it, okay.
No worries.
Any other questions on the changes in liabilities? Everybody's secure on what it is? Okay, good. Good. No questions from the floor, Tyler?
Okay, well, thank you for your time, and you guys have a wonderful night. Take care.
Okay, you take care now. Thank you.
Tyler.
No problem.
Are you gonna need the Zoom meeting at all from here on out?
Say again?
We're gonna need the Zoom meeting at all from here on out? Was it just for
No,
that?
it was
Okay.
just.
That was the one Zoom meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll go on to the reports of the town officials. I'm gonna go through an overview on setting the tax rate for 2020 in more detail later on in the meeting, since that's one of our agendas on new business. The upcoming social events is on the 28th of December is a Christmas party that's being planned on the Common for the kids. Santa Claus and the elves have been working hard up on Ellsworth Hill or Nichols Hill, getting things in order. They've got a sleigh together. Point of contact on this is Donna King. We're trying to really reach out to the younger kids in the town in a socially distanced environment outside, to bring some fun into this, into the environment we're setting with COVID.
Did you say November or December 20th?
I said November.
I have,
You said
if you want, I
December.
can just give you this schedule.
I
You
said-
did say December.
Okay, excuse, I apologize.
It's
I
November.
thought it was
November, it's November 28th.
I just thought I'd, yeah.
Thank
see
you.
that.
Santa Claus is very close by.
And Mrs. Claus too.
Who is Mrs. Claus?
Surprise.
So it's a fun event, everybody's going through a crisis with this COVID thing, and we're trying to live our lives, and I think if we can bring some normalcy into it, I think that's gonna be cool.
Good
Anyways.
lady, too.
So, has everybody got a copy of it?
I just got 3.
Okay.
Yeah, this.
We will
I'm
post
gonna
this.
post this on the Wentworth
What is
bulletin
that?
board in News and Views.
Say again?
What is that?
Christmas on the Common, this is what I'm describing. We'll post it on the Wentworth bulletin board. Okay, is Chief around?
I'll go get him.
Mr. Chairman, has anything come down from the governor about shutting anything down? Are we gonna be able to do this Christmas on the Common?
Yeah, as long as you stay socially distanced, 6 feet away, people wear masks. You know, it's the standard policies that are instilled right now.
Okay.
No difference to it.
Can't stop Christmas, you gotta watch Disney.
You can't stop.
Can't stop Christmas.
Oh, I know that.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I thought you were leaving.
Chief, I'm sorry.
DHHS is issuing new guidance for health officers across the state in terms of contact tracing, social distancing, and mask wearing. They're really pushing the mask wearing hard per governor mandates, or not mandates, but advice. But as of right now, that's all there is. There are rising cases in Grafton County at this point in time, so that is subject to change.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Chief?
May I
Oh,
add one thing? I've been attending the Grafton County Commissioner meetings, Mr. Chairman, and last week they reported that the vaccines will soon be made available to the, voluntarily, to the residents at the nursing home by the end of November. That's their anticipated date. Vaccines, voluntary administration.
Which one of the vaccines? They're all different.
Well, at that time Pfizer was the only one that had announced. In the last couple of days, the other.
Pfizer's vaccine has to be kept at minus 70 degrees centigrade. So that vaccine will only be good for in institutional settings.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, the nursing home. So they
Oh,
were
okay.
talking about, Federal Express or UPS trucks being specially outfitted with, you know, refrigeration units or freezer units that would keep it that low. But anyway, that was one of the reports from the nursing home administrator last week,
Yeah.
Greg Laborde, that that's what they're hoping is gonna happen, that the
Well,
voluntary at least that's what I heard last week.
I actually had a meeting today with my other job. The vaccines are expected to be coming to the VA hospitals for veterans and staff on a voluntary basis as well. However, there is no timeline right now, and there is further testing needed. There are currently 2 vaccines that are
testing's not complete.
right, and it's going to be several months before it will be completed. I think they're being overly ambitious to say the end of November, because there are some pretty severe side effects that need to be considered.
Exactly. Okay, that clarifies it. Thank you. Chief, your report, you're up next.
Yes, thank you. And I'm gonna piggyback on that a little bit as well. So we've been in contact and received some direction from Homeland Security Emergency Manager Director Jennifer Harper. There are now currently 500 deaths in the state of New Hampshire, so numbers have increased here. I think it's a result of the people that we've seen that's come into the state earlier, and this is the residual effects that we're having to contend with now. In any event, they have, the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services has announced that some new universal guidelines for travel, which you just mentioned, both 14-day and 7-day quarantines. If you go to their website, they have hyperlinks that are on there that will let people know which one is going to be more applicable to them depending on what destination they plan on going to or who they may have visiting them. And I just bring this up because we're coming into the holiday season hot and heavy. We're gonna have people coming and going, and I just want us to be diligent in practicing some of these safety measures so that we can all remain healthy. Wentworth is still one of the names, thank the good Lord, that does not come up on that little ticker tape across
Yeah.
WMUR Channel 9 News, and I'm happy to hear that. Yes.
When you say coming and going, you're talking about outside the state and back in the state?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
There's a lot
And thank you for-
of out-of-state travel into the town of Wentworth right now.
And they are doing some tracking, some, tracing. They've had a couple of clusters that have been traced directly back to some hockey events that have taken place in the state and another state, and so they're following up on that. And I think she's addressed the vaccines and what they're doing for that, so that's good. As far as the police department, this is that time of year where we seem to get involved with a lot of family matters. We've attended another CAC interview regarding the welfare of a Wentworth child that we're currently looking into and assisting DCYF with, and Voices Against Violence. There's some measures that are put in place to ensure that they're safe, and that'll be followed up on in the near future. There is a new and active scam that's taken place in New England that I want to bring to everybody's attention. and it pertains to grandparents, elderly people that are being contacted by somebody stating that they have a grandchild that was arrested, is being held on criminal charges, they need some cash bail due to the charges that they're being held on. They're able to actually give names of family members. That information is usually obtained through social media. So when the grandparents question, well, is it Jordan or is it Josh? And they say, well, it's Jordan. Well, you know, so they're actually able to validate some of that. They have people that are coming to their homes and picking up cash money. So pretty brazen, but unfortunately, one of these is a case that was very successful and they managed to get $18,000 cash from.
For bail?
Yes, yes, and they handed that over to somebody, so. As many times as we try to educate people and say, just do not do this. Do not give people personal information, social security numbers. You know, we've had people go to Walmart and say, buy us $5,000 worth of gift cards and send us the numbers, and then we'll do the transaction that way. That's not how we do business in court, so. But people are unfortunately victim to these crimes and these scams, so I wanna bring that up, that's the most recent one.
I have another question regarding that.
Regarding
Social
this,
Security one is going around again too. My mother's been contacted twice.
okay.
Been contacted.
I can contact you as well.
I received a couple of calls regarding some information on an accident that took place on Route 25 where there was some damage to the guardrails. I am aware of that, it's being investigated, I already know who's responsible for it. They've come in and made good on it, it's been reported, so it's not a conduct after. I've had several people say that it wasn't reported, should have been, it has been, it's being dealt with. I've returned some firearms to a Wentworth resident per a court order that was taken per a court order, and they were returned with the court's permission. The person that they were taken from and returned to was very good and cordial, taken without any incident. On another note, I had another domestic violence temporary order that I served yesterday on a Wentworth resident. It was issued by the Plymouth Family Court. That person was escorted from a Wentworth residence. He had to also was required to surrender his firearms to me. I have a room full of firearms right now that I have taken from different people over the last 2 months. Unfortunately, we're coming into a holiday season. The holiday season is mixed because we have family members that get together, we have family members that are able to get along, some that are not able to get along. And it's also a time where we need to keep an eye on our neighbors and other residents, and I don't wanna say just the elderly people in our community, it's applicable to all of us, because some of them are sharing the holidays without family members. Right now, the New Hampshire suicide hotline has seen a significant increase, yes. And COVID-19 has not helped that, because they're required to social distance now, and instead of being able to communicate with somebody that would help them through this time, they maybe not have that. So I would ask that we all keep an eye on our community, our neighbors, and our family members. And
I'd like to echo that because the suicide rate is dramatically increasing.
yes. And Wentworth Police Department has no problems. We've done them time and time again. If someone's concerned about somebody, call us. We have no problems going and doing
Welfare checks,
welfare
great
check.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the chief? No? Okay. Okay, Chief Ames?
Okay, I'll start out with calls for service. We had mutual aid response to warrant for smoke in the building. Ended up being an oven problem. Then we had a fire alarm activation at King Forest Industries. Motor vehicle accident, 2 vehicles and a deer. By the time we arrived on the scene, the 2 vehicles had left, the deer did not. Then we had a call for odor in the air on Route 25 and 25A in that junction area. Never have figured out what that might have been.
Near the blinking light?
Yeah, so it was some type of an odor. It might have been spilt gasoline, it might have been an LP purge, something to that effect. Then we had a mutual aid response to Rundy for assist on an animal rescue. And another mutual aid response to Rundy for a carryout of assistance for an injured hiker. Training wise, we've gone into various stages of training because of the various levels that we have people at right now. So we are gaining in members. We just received another new member on board, so that makes 4 this summer. This young lady is looking at doing this as a career path as well, so it's important that she, you know, gets properly trained. So we've been doing training such as breathing apparatus training, rescue tool extrication training for motor vehicle accidents. And we got one that we all seem to enjoy. We call it the grab and tell training. We'll holler out a appliance name. We tell the person, you know, what engine we want it pulled from. They're to locate it because they're supposed to know locations. They bring it to us and they explain its usage. Once they know how to do that,
Yeah.
we can put them into a scenario where they would be actually using it. So that's been a good training for us. Personnel, like I said earlier, we've gained another new member. The crew is growing. We're excited to see fresh members coming on board. One of the difficulties that we're trying to overcome is the training aspects. Again, we have different levels of experience in that department.
Yeah, but you can take advantage of that by taking people that are more experienced
Right.
and using them as trainers.
Right.
So
Utilize.
you can make that into an advantage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then another safety meeting at the school went well. I have some future meetings with several of the local fire chiefs for discussion on automatic responses to building fires in various areas of their town and ours. The way it works right now, there's not really a lot. We're automatic for Warren on a lot of calls. What we're trying to do, Warren, Wentworth, Rumney, Plymouth, make some of these calls automatic. So when the tone goes out for Rumney for a structure fire, then the tone also goes out for Wentworth for the same structure fire.
Okay.
So we're gonna have hopefully quicker responses to those types of calls, getting pieces in place. And then we're gonna talk a little bit about the opportunity that has arisen to us, and that's breathing apparatus, which I believe you all have
Yeah.
gotten some information
We all
on.
reviewed it.
Those numbers have changed a little bit by further discussion. Initially, I had said somewhere around the $800 mark for those packs. And it came back to me that if we came up with $700 a piece, they would accept that. Those packs would be taken into a company called PSI, which, that's what they do. They recertify those packs. And the price is gonna stay the same. It's at $700 a piece.
How many pieces are you looking
We're
at?
looking at getting 6. That'd give us $4,200 out of the budget,
Out of your budget?
out of my budget.
Okay, and you have it?
I do. Yeah, and it's a great opportunity for us. I mean, we've done this type of thing in the past on other packs. It's going to, you're looking at a pack that's new 7,000.
Yeah.
And you're now buying it for 700, and it's a certifiable pack.
And you've got, 4 new recruits, so you're gonna need
More
these.
pieces. Yeah.
And it's in your budget. I'd like to make a motion that we accept this.
Second?
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you know what, thank you for doing the work.
Yes, and help to have the information
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chief. Very good.
I'd like to add to the fire report, I've been in touch with DART and
Yes.
and New Hampshire Fish and Game, their mountain rescue team, and I'm organizing a training program for you guys. John Hines, the lecturer, and Fish and Game are comfortable with January 16th.
Yes.
Now, I need feedback from you and from Wally, because I look at you guys as our emergency services. I'm trying to set it up to do it at the Wentworth Aerodrome.
Yep.
We've got an FCC GPS there to fly the helicopters in. Are you interested in, see, the Dart helicopter is kind of a really kind of tiny helicopter with not much lift capacity. And what New Hampshire Fish and Game has had a problem with is they can lift the casualty out, but the rescue team is left behind.
Right.
And so they're wanting us to involve more in this rescue training and use the heavy lift Blackhawk. So do you have an interest in me trying to get the Blackhawks involved?
Absolutely, because we don't know, in the future, we
'Cause that's
may need
military.
that to happen.
Well, you're gonna, you know what, in the future, you can't send 14 people into the top of the White Mountains
Right.
and then pull one out and leave the others.
Yeah,
You gotta pull
you
everybody out.
fend for yourself,
Right.
you're on your own. Yeah, no, I think that would be fantastic to mix that in with that as well.
Okay, and are you comfortable having military
Yeah.
lectures and all the things?
Yeah.
Because some people are anti-military. And so, no, I'm just telling you, they are.
Yeah,
And they balk at having their help.
no, I think that would welcome it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll look into that some more. The other thing is Steve Welch at the election, he was kind of bored, he came over to me and said he needs a rural fire truck. That you were.
Yeah,
you
so
one.
let me just explain a little bit about that.
I went and found one through the DOD. It's a 5-ton, it'll carry 10,000 pounds in weight.
Yeah.
And,
So basically, what we've been looking at, and this is something future,
yeah,
because we need a place to put it, because we don't have that at this point. But something in that 1 ton to 1.5 ton, maybe 2 ton range vehicle. Something that's.
like a Humvee.
Yeah, something smaller, something that you carry 250 gallons of water with a forestry pump on board. Also something that can be utilized as a utility rig during the winter months, so it'd be a combination piece. What we're doing right now is, you get done a structure fire somewhere, and we're piling hose in the back of everybody's pickup, we're piling gear in, of course it's all frozen, during the winter months, so we take it back in our own vehicles and thaw it out and whatever. If we have a piece that would function in that manner,
Yeah,
that pretty much anybody can drive, then that would, mix better, I think, in this town.
okay, so an LMTV would be
Mm.
appropriate for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have no funding available at this point for a project like this,
Yeah,
and we also have the old Chevy 1 ton that we thought of converting to a forestry utility. Chevy 1 ton was a pumper
yeah,
we had here in town at one time.
okay, I remember that one. Yeah.
So we still own that, the town still owns that, and we still have it.
Okay.
Probably
the
should have given you a little more information.
Yeah, I was
when
gonna
it
say the clearance, see, if you get an LMTV, you got a high clearance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more clearance than a Humvee. And so you get around a lot more, and it's easy, it's a cab over,
Yeah.
so it's easy to drive.
So, I mean, that's something that certainly can be discussed further, but I mean, that's a future project, a further out project.
You need a bigger fire station.
There you go. That's my first project, and that's my priority.
Okay, I'm gonna just drop that one.
And then we had discussed about a fire permit on the common. So that's something you're gonna have to sign as the chairman.
Okay,
And so if you wanna just.
how big a fire can we have?
2 foot. It's restricted to the distance, that's why. If you sign it, you can have as big as you would like, and then you
No,
can
that's the
explain,
wrong thing to say.
then you can explain that to the rangers after. So if you want, come down and sign your name to that, and then I'll have that available for Donna at the
Okay,
tree lighting.
and Donna knows about that,
Yeah.
she's got it on her radar, okay.
Any other questions?
Any questions for the fire department?
I've got one quick question. Do they ever give you a hard time when you're coming out from the road that your fire station's on onto 25 in front of my house? Do those people coming up the road ever give you a hard time?
As far as verbally giving me a hard time, no. We have had a couple of instances in years past where we would be pulling out, and we've had a fairly sizable tractor trailer pitched down over the hill, of course, probably not doing the speed limit, and we almost bought it there a couple of times, so.
I'm not surprised, there's just enough of a
Pitch on that.
pitch on it, yep.
Yeah, so we have had experience there that makes you nervous.
Yeah,
Seatbelt's not gonna help.
a couple times I see you folks coming out and I say, wow, I hope they're, cause there's cars coming up the hill.
Yeah.
You really can't see too much coming down the hill, that's the thing.
That's the bad part. So we try our best to stop and go instead of just go.
Well, thank you for your service, you guys are great, thank you.
Thanks.
Is it worth pursuing a light at the top of the hill, or
I will see it.
at the top of the hill?
Yes, it would be worth, we worked in that direction one other time, and I don't remember now where it fell.
So the DOT would be responsible for
Yeah.
that? Okay.
And I don't remember where that ended up going, but,
I'm thinking of the light up with a blinking light.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
stop at the intersection.
yeah.
Okay.
They followed the speed limit though, Mr. Chairman.
They don't.
They do.
They did.
Nobody does going through there.
Mm-mm.
Some of us
Any-
do.
Any comments?
I do.
No. Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. On the transfer station, I think that, no one's here tonight, but, they've been doing a really good job, I think, and I got a question for you on this. They've been doing a good job at keeping everything neat there and organized. Randy is, getting a metal, container for storing the metal, so it keeps that problem down. Now, he was supposed to get together with you guys to deal with the bulk oil, for,
I'm gonna touch on that when I talk real quick.
oh, you're gonna go through that.
Well,
Yeah,
not necessarily on the bulk oil, but to go with that, I'm gonna,
You know what?
He advised me what's happening.
Go ahead, tell me, Linda.
He contacted a company in Pittsfield, Medico, I guess Tamsin recommended them,
Okay,
and they are going to haul a, I don't know how many gallon tank.
okay,
So they're gonna get rid of all the smaller containers, cut off their relationship with Kevin Patton, who wants the small containers.
right.
And they're just gonna fill this big, I think it might be 200 gallon or so.
Yeah, the small
they're gonna
containers
be-
have a huge potential for, leaking
Yeah.
and,
So this company pays a certain amount, so he feels it's gonna be very reasonable. He hasn't got the exact prices yet.
does the town pay to get rid of it, or does the company pay them for it?
The company pays for it less a delivery charge. So, I mean.
The company pays for waste oil?
I think so, yes.
That's what
That's
they
what Randy said, but he's not sure yet how much we're gonna net out of it.
That's a first. If that's a deal, I mean, we should do that.
that's what I've been pushing for that, to try and take a.
Because nobody
negative
normally
environment.
pays for waste oil.
Yeah, well, they probably
Well-
use it for heating.
They probably pay for the waste oil, but this is just a guess, cause I've seen it in the past, what happens. They pay you for the waste oil, but they charge you a, hazard fee, and they also charge you a trucking fee.
And they have to do something.
So when
with
it
that.
comes all out, it might be, towns end up paying for the trucking.
Okay, so,
So maybe do it once and see what happens.
Well, Randy's looking at that, just wanted to let you know.
can you let Randy know that we need to get some feedback on that, I suppose? So I didn't, at the last meeting, we talked about getting a new, the issues of getting a new furnace, for your shop.
Yep.
Using the bulk oil, is that something you?
So I did a lot of research on it. I didn't bring any paperwork tonight, because I know you get a lot on
Yeah,
the agenda
that's
tonight,
right.
so I wasn't gonna waste
Yeah.
a lot of time on it tonight. But if you guys are still interested in me bringing you the paperwork, I have found waste oil furnaces that are reasonable, very reasonable priced, that are readily available. They range anywhere from $5,800 to $7,200, and they heat. I think it's from 2,800 square feet up to 4,000 square feet. That's the price range, and if you're interested, I would be more than glad to give you a few pamphlets to read about them.
Yeah,
There are no grants available, like I said. The grants available are for homeowners only, because they're trying to push these new waste oil furnaces on homeowners.
okay.
But they are available.
Okay, how do you feel as a road agent, having that as a source of heat in your,
Well, if we're gonna get 300 or 400 gallons a year of waste oil, and I can, bring it down to the shop in 55-gallon drums and store it, I mean, I got plenty of storage down there. I don't know, 400 gallons of oil's $800 or $900,
yeah,
off the heating bill. So if you take that into consideration, maybe we'll get more, I don't know, I'm just using 400. If we did that, I mean, it would take 5 to 6 years to pay for it. I have no problem installing a waste oil furnace. They're very simple, they're very easily run. The only thing that I would do that they don't come with is I would put a filter system, a water
Yeah, filter.
filtration system on them. So you don't burn the water and have to clean the nozzle all the time. But that's completely, if you guys are still interested, I will bring you pamphlets in 2 weeks, because I do have a lot of money in my budget. If it's something that you guys want to okay in my
Yeah,
budget this year.
I look at it, if we have enough bulk oil to run the mission, if it's something that works in your facility, and it's a way to use the oil and decrease the cost of moving it.
You're not supposed to transport waste oil unless you're using it. Oh, go ahead, Jeff was gonna tell you guys, go ahead, he might have a little more information.
So, under the hazard mitigation's rules for these types of things,
Okay,
first, if you're going to store it, you have to store it in a certain manner. It can't be just
double
stored.
tank, yes.
It can be stored outside in the ground.
Right. And then, if you're going to ship it, there has to be a bill of lading for every shipment, because you own that hazardous materials. From the time you've generated it
Right,
to the time it ends up at a plant. So you have to do a bill of lading for every one of them.
even if he's moving it from the,
That's different, because you're
We
moving
can
from
do it
town
as
to
a town, we
town.
can do it.
As a town, you can do that.
yeah,
We don't
okay,
have to worry about it as a town, that's what he's getting to.
okay,
So on
Get it
town
away.
property, you're fine. But if you're gonna do that through this company, you will have to do, a bill of lading for every hazardous material that's moved off your
Yeah.
premises.
Jordan, what are your thoughts on this and Omer, because I think that that's gonna be a potential nightmare in paperwork, and if we could just burn the oil on site.
You have to have a place card to transport any oil unless it's for the town and only for the town. Like legally, when I take the oil up to Kevin Patton, if the DES saw me doing it, see you later, goodbye.
Yeah,
And I mean, see you later, goodbye.
so we should probably try to keep it on the property. What's your, some thoughts here?
Do those burn only motor oil, or is it hydraulic
The
oil?
one that the one I'm looking at it's from Tractor Supply, $6,100. It's got a 250-gallon tank on it. The heater's up top, it comes with all the stovepipe, insulated stovepipe and everything, you put it together yourself. It burns from 90 weight gear oil all the way up to kerosene.
So you have a wide range. I'm just worried at the dump, when I was there on Sunday,
Yep.
and it was hectic. You got 1 or 2 people running around, and I'm just worried about people taking oil you can't burn, or having oil that has a lot of water in it and dumping it into here, and then it ending up in the furnace and spraying.
That's why I said the one thing I would do is put a double water filtration system on them before it gets fed to the furnace.
You'd have to watch them, everybody like a hawk, if it was more finicky.
That's why you have to do that there.
So I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
At one point, and I believe it's still there, isn't there a tank in place at the transfer station for your
Yes,
waste?
there is.
And is that a
That's my
problem because
knowledge.
it's full of water right now,
It's a
or?
problem because it's full of oil.
Oil,
It's 300 gallons.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of heating going on there if you've got that oil, and in my mind,
Plus he's got 3 drums, 2 of them are full and 1 is.
so you really
half
shouldn't
full.
store it that way. It needs to be in it,
moved,
yeah.
So if we're gonna have a meeting next Tuesday night, if it's something you guys want me to discuss, I will bring you the pamphlets and you can vote. I can tell you that I have plenty of money in my budget this year to buy one. It can be installed before I'll install it myself at the highway department, but we would. I have plenty of money in my budget. if that's something that the town, the selectmen
It
thinks
cuts down the
would be.
cost for the town of fuel.
But it's,
Yeah, I agree. I think we should look into that and have an opportunity to use up the multi-grades of oil that would be out there and other materials, yeah.
so should we just tell Randy to hold off for a week until we make a decision?
Just communicate with Sam. Excuse me, I don't know where Randy is in the process.
I'm
I
not
wish he was
sure
here.
exactly either. I don't know if he's actually agreed to anything yet or what.
Let's move along in this direction.
So moving along, we'll talk about the
Okay.
heater later. I'm not gonna take up much of your time. I just wanna thank you, Omer, and you, Arnie, for coming to the committee meetings, that we had, the truck and equipment committee meetings. It was a big help having you guys there, see how
They
we
were real
did.
productive.
Rick and Francis, both of you, thank you very much for coming to them. I appreciate everybody that put in their time and took their time out of family time to come down there on Monday nights for 2 to 2.5 hours. We made good progress. We had 3 meetings. I think everybody, we had a good time, and I think we did the best we could do with what we had, and there won't be any more committee meetings, but I just wanted to tell everybody thank you.
Good. I think we came to some good decisions
Yep.
last night.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, Jordan, you're doing the gravel.
This young lady has a question.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I may be misremembering, but I seem to recall from the last meeting, what he had been talking about was getting rid of what's there, and then going forward would be with the waste oil. It didn't sound like, if I'm remembering
It was
correctly.
either or.
Oh, it was an
Yeah.
either
No,
or?
No, it didn't sound like an either or. I agree with you.
Right, I thought it was just to get rid of what was there, which was why he was gonna contact the
Yeah.
company to try and get rid of what was there, and then going forward, was gonna look at that.
If you do an update, I gotta step out from there.
Okay,
He's gonna do the gravel pit.
so I need to come up with numbers from HEB or from a surveyor, as we're trying to write a warrant article as far as the gravel pit. So what I have come up with is HEB as far as the surveying and the deed research and the topo stuff and the amounts of gravel. They said that they don't think it would take a full survey. They can utilize existing data, on-site GPS, and prepare a report with an existing boundary and topo. They think that would be around $5,000 to do deed research and some of this GPS work. He says when it comes to gravel pit yield, the most important part is geotechnical borings. He said it's gonna be tricky to get something in there because we have to cross a river unless we come in from the backside that I have not explored. And he said that to do something like that would be about an additional $8,000.
How many?
8, another 8. So if you were to do both in 1 year, that might be upwards of 13,000. Or you could go with the phase 1 of like 5,000 or something like that, just to get some basic topo and some deed research and all that stuff we have to start with.
Wouldn't you assume, or can't you not just assume, I don't know, but if that's all where the location of the gravel pit,
Mhm.
knowing what's around it, can't you just assume what's there?
Yeah,
Instead of doing
I'm
the
not sure
borings?
that we have to do the borings. I just think that there's
I
kind of
don't
two.
think you'd be able to dig below, too much below the riverbed surface, without doing an extensive pond and
Right.
filtration and all that stuff, so.
Probably,
Probably what is there for gravel is what is there, but the one thing is, probably over time, the gravel will wash back in there.
they probably will. So the first $5,000 would probably get the deed research and everything, which is the most important part to start with. And then after that, the on-site GPS and topo, probably we can come up with a rough number, because you'll have the river and you'll have the mounds and everything kind of we can calculate something. We could budget in that extra money just in case we were to move forward with more parts of the process, or I know we're about to discuss the tax rate and probably nobody's on board with spending a ton of money. But at the very least, the $5,000, I think is worth doing.
Do we have, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if I may, do we have any idea of how many acres are in there? Any?
Tax map says there's 15.
How many?
15,
50.
plus or minus an
Okay.
acre or two.
All right.
It's pretty sizable.
Yeah.
Even if it's not functional as a gravel pit, it's still a potential house site.
Asset,
or-
yeah, it's an.
Yeah, it's an asset that, and that's just going to waste.
I
And for
bought-
$5,000 to figure out whether it is, we even own it or not, I think is worth it.
I volunteered to do the deed research, but I didn't hear whether or not the place is open to the public or the large.
The gravel pit?
No.
Oh, the registry?
Just need to
You
go
can
on.
go online and do most of it.
Go online.
Yeah, you do most of it on the computer.
Yep, I don't know, you'd have to just call the
I don't have
registry.
an account.
You don't have to, they have, it's called
public
Tapestry
access.
now. If you have a credit card, you can pay as you go.
No, I ain't going to do that.
That's the only way to do it and not go in without an account.
I'll go there, but I won't do it on home.
I think you can, but I'm not sure. You just call them.
I was up there today, up to North Haverhill, and evidently they're not wearing masks right now at the registry of deeds, but everywhere else in that building, they're requiring masks. So,
The register of deeds is open to the public? is it?
I have a feeling that it is. You just, you know, you know, you gotta wash your hands and the masks and things, and if there's anything amiss, I'm sure the registry people will let you know, but I would call them ahead of time. Just call the registry ahead of time and let them know you wanna come up for the town and you're doing things, and
Based on the things I know, I think all this should be put off as a low priority for another year.
I think for $5,000, we shouldn't put it off. I think it's been put off for 15 years, and if we do it again, it's never gonna happen. I've worked all summer trying to get it going, and if it doesn't happen this year, I think you're gonna see another decade of no gravel pit.
I'd like to pursue it too.
Yeah, for $5,000, it's worth trying to reopen something that potentially has a significant amount of.
Yes, that's,
Potentially.
Some years ago, when Francis and I were on the board, someone from the state came in and told us there's well over 1 million yards of gravel in there that we could mine.
Who's someone from,
I'm sorry?
state geologist or?
Someone from the state, Dan's, I don't know who it was, do you remember who it was?
No, I don't.
But someone from the state came into the board, we asked someone to come in and tell us what we would have to do to open that up again.
There's a lot of money there, but getting it's the problem.
I think the best thing we can do is prove we own it, prove how much gravel is there through these GPS and topo surveys, or get a number. And if that all went best case scenario, and we own it, we know how much gravel there is, advertise it to the top 15 companies in this area and sell it. The town has no interest in owning and operating a gravel pit. We don't need crushers, we don't need employees, we don't need trucks. We shouldn't do any of that. We should just prove that we own it, that we can get the permit for the bridge, and that we can get the gravel pit permit. And as long as we have those steps checked off, it'll increase the value from 0 to whatever that gravel is worth.
What would you?
If you don't mind, I had a question first. If you were to, I don't know if you would know the entire process of actually even getting it up and running. I mean, obviously, this first year, nothing would happen. You'd go through, these different studies, right?
Yep.
So at
It's
the
a
minimum,
multi-year.
it would be, 2022, and even then, maybe not, right?
Well, it's definitely not gonna happen this year, no. We're talking about approving phase 1 of $5,000.
Right. What I'm saying, I guess what I'm getting at is, if we put it off this year,
It's
then
never
it's
gonna
just going to be multiple more years, anyways.
Right, because something else will happen, we have another big bridge to build, you'll get new select board members or whatever, there'll be new emergencies, and they'll get forgotten about, and it just won't happen. So we should just do
Did
it.
you look into how many of the properties surrounding that property are already surveyed?
I have not done that research. I was gonna leave it to a surveyor, because it's not just about the deed research, you also have to know the laws and the court case history of rivers moving. And that is well beyond my expertise. That's a lawyer or a surveyor that's gonna have to stamp something like that we can move forward. Even if we were to read that and it seemed obvious to us, the town can't invest. If we had to build the bridge, no one's gonna invest $500,000 in a bridge based on a citizen's inspection, it's gotta be stamped by somebody with insurance, so when you get sued, it's covered. This is how you have
Francis,
to do
are you
it.
willing to do the deed research on it?
I am, but you're gonna have to give it to the person who actually does the final legal work and
Yes.
use it as a basis for them looking up and authenticating my work.
That would be the best case scenario. You probably could save money by doing the deed research and then handing it off to whoever we hire, and it might save us
I
money.
did the same thing on the church property down there when it was changed over to would be owned by the Congregational Church. I did all the deed research, handed it to the lawyers, and then they just reaffirmed
Mhm.
and went to court.
Yep. Because when it's all said and done, you have to have someone, some company that's gonna stand behind
Yeah,
whatever we're doing.
I agree.
Yep.
Do you wanna make a motion?
I think, well, whenever I haven't done this before, but we're coming into warrant article season, we're gonna write warrant articles. So does that
You
happen
wanna do
during these
this?
meetings? I just know the number, how do we submit those?
We have to wait until a budget meeting and
Okay.
then do some warrant articles and stuff, and that's.
Okay, so I have
That's
the
the
want to
numbers.
defer it to a warrant article rather than doing a motion and voting on it to go through with it right now?
I think that it probably should, I mean, it's not a rush, we can wait for town meeting.
Well, last couple of meetings I've been at with the road agent, he says he's got some money. And you probably should be careful when you say that in a public place.
Well, I don't have it on me.
But, I mean, for $5,000, sometimes you've gotta act when the iron's hot. And, you know, you've been doing some good work on that, Mr. King, I appreciate that. Francis, you know, thank you for coming up with, and if there is some money, and don't hold this against me for, you know, wanting to spend money. But if we don't have to do a warrant article, and again, this is gravel, which pertains to the highway department, you know, it's hopefully gonna help the highway department.
Oh, no, we don't, you're talking about taking money out of Paul's budget for it?
Yeah, for the $5,000.
But he's not gonna get it primary. The gravels in this pit is getting sold to a private company.
No, but to get the work done so that we can, it's gonna benefit him, I would say it's gonna benefit the highway department at some point, because the highway department needs some new equipment.
Yeah, he's just talking about moving the timeline up from March to now.
Yes.
Right, by finding $5,000 somewhere in the budget. I'll default to whatever you guys think on that.
I just would hate to wait much longer for him to do it.
If you rely on me to get the deeds work, it's probably gonna take me, I don't know how long really, but I'm gonna say up to the end of the year.
Yeah.
And you're not paying me anything, so you don't need any money until next year's budget.
And then we'll just have the 5,000 anyways, and it'll come in cheaper, because you'll have done the deed research, and we'll have to take 3 bids anyways on these companies, and do that process, so that'll take time.
To do it as a warrant article.
Yeah, so I have the numbers now for phase 1.
So I wouldn't
it's
worry
ready
about
for
hasting
warrant.
anything, but.
Okay, all right.
Okay, as far as the bids came in, you all finished?
Yep.
Any more questions on that topic? No. As far as the road agent, bids came in for the vibratory roller, I'm just gonna open them up and see what they are. This is gonna be interesting.
How many did you end up with?
2.
Just 2?
2.
What is the purpose of the vibrator roll? I'm asking a stupid question, I think I know the answer to, but let the hear an answer.
All?
Well, the vibratory roller, when you put gravel down on the road, or even when you grade it in the spring, if you roll it with a vibratory roller, it really packs it down. And the main reason I like to use it is because it packs the edges down, because cars don't travel on the edge of the road, so water has a chance to shed off the road into the ditch line. Because there's not a single car you'll see that drives on the edge of the road. They're all up the middle. So, and that's true. I mean, if you take a ride up Beltwell Hill, you'll see what a roller does to a road. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it compresses.
It compresses, it rolls the edges over so
Seals
the
it.
water runs off the road and not down it.
down, especially on the hills, you lose 20% of your gravel off a very hilled road every year, every winter. So by using the vibratory roller, it compresses it and decreases that erosion rate.
And I personally have no intentions whatsoever of ever buying a roller for the town. I think when we need one, we will rent one.
Yeah.
What system are you using on it?
We're not buying it, we have a
We're
junk one. that
selling the
we're
old
Selling the
selling.
towns, okay, so the first bid is from Zachary Land, from Campton, Campton, New Hampshire, it's $252. And the next one is from Tim Dossier from Campton, New Hampshire, again, $300. So I would say it goes to this person.
Now, what are they bidding on?
The
Is it orange?
Mag vibratory roller.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what,
what
we put the bid out.
Runs by
I-
itself.
How
about a month
do you
ago.
operate this thing?
Well, you don't because it doesn't run.
What?
It doesn't run. It starts, but you can't move it. This is the one we had, estimate of like $28,000 for a hydraulic motor.
Ah, okay.
We were either gonna sell it for junk and scrap.
it's scrap metal.
I thought you were buying something.
No, we're selling it, we're cleaning up the town.
So,
Are you gonna call him or you want me to?
Do you think that's,
Okay.
a good bid?
I don't think we have a choice. What was the minimum bid? I really thought maybe you'd get 500 for it, but there's only 2 bids. I had a lot of people come down and look at it. I'm surprised there's only 2 bids.
Minimum bid was 200.
Minimum
Was
bid.
today the deadline to get the bids in?
Yes.
Okay.
They've been out there a month.
So,
We did this a month ago with the select
I
board.
know we did, but I didn't know what the deadline was to get the bids in.
Yeah,
So I just wanted to make sure we.
Today.
we need a motion to accept it?
I'll make a motion that we accept the highest bid for the bone bag vibratory roller.
And I'll second that.
It's Tim Dossier from Campton.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that doesn't increase the spending capacity of your authorization. In other words, it goes into the surplus fund balance. General fund.
Yeah, nobody's got a problem.
I'll vote yes.
One more point is spend it.
Oh, yes.
Okay. We just set a schedule for department budgets and hearings. Jeff, you guys are, 2 of you are here, is Wally around?
yeah, I can go get him.
Go grab Wally, because we just gotta set a date for bringing the budgets together.
Are you gonna meet more often than just every 2 weeks? Because there's quite a bit to be done in setting a budget.
Yeah, well, let's see what they have to say.
We already have the road agents, budget.
We already have a lot of the budgets already.
Can I hear the road agent budget? I suggest it should not go over 300,000.
You'll be able to speak
Yep.
up here.
What?
Right?
At the
Okay,
hearings.
when do you guys wanna get together and do your department budgets and hearings? I know you've been working on it. Is 2 weeks too late?
It doesn't not matter to me. Are we doing the same as last year? Last year we had like
I don't know what you did last year.
well, I can tell you what we did last year. We had like a meeting, at the select board meeting, we kind of went over the budget,
Yeah,
talked about it in public, and then each board, head of department, I think a couple went each select board meeting or something, or maybe we all did, I can't remember exactly how it went. And then they did a budget hearing that we did at the school because, I don't know, maybe 20 people were there at that point.
I remember that, yeah.
So I don't know how you're doing it, but I'm ready. I think I'm ready. I'm not gonna
So-
speak for these guys. I'm ready anytime you are.
Okay.
Well, I think procedurally, I'm not sure what has to happen, but I think everybody could probably present their budget during one meeting.
Yeah, exactly, I'm looking at
And
the next
then
meeting.
I put it together, and then we have a public hearing to go over it. And at that time, the public can make their comments and we make the decisions to change a budget if we have to. Is that procedurally correct? I'm asking because I don't really have
Sort of.
Hang on,
I don't have,
I think we're-
experience with this, but.
what I'd like to do is just have all of them come in and present at a public meeting, select board meeting, their potential budgets. You absorb it, get it out to the community, and then we put a public hearing.
Well, that's why I just don't know exactly what
What I'm
the,
asking them
rules
is,
are.
in 2 weeks, can you guys present this?
Yeah, and at the next select board meeting, sure.
Okay, so at the next select board meeting, we'll plan to do that.
You
Okay,
also-
now
We'll have
what
that
about
in
Randy?
HEB. Right?
I usually do Randy's budget.
You do Randy's budget.
I do the Park and Rec, Randy, Historical Society, all that. So it's really just police, fire, highway, and library. And I do all the admin stuff.
Okay, so we're gonna get in contact with the library person.
Yes, I can
whoever
let
that
her
is,
know.
just to make sure. The HEB thing is a Zoom meeting.
I forgot, that's the
That's-
Tuesday in between.
That's why I'm trying to do that offline.
Yep, so
Okay.
that's next Tuesday, and then the following Tuesday is our normal meeting. That's my mistake.
Okay,
So next Tuesday is not a meeting here.
Now, we're gonna do a Zoom meeting
Okay.
for the bridges,
Right.
and you should probably,
I was thinking it was gonna be here because I was gonna hand you the stuff for the wastewater furnace, like I had mentioned. That's why I thought it was here.
well, we can come here and do our Zoom from here.
I don't mind coming in.
I was just gonna, if that works for you guys, that way you can have a week to look it over and decide if it's something the town really wants to do or not.
Yeah.
Because we are
Yeah, I
getting
just
close. We've only got 6 weeks of this year left.
Yeah, his wife had, he needs to stay close to home, and I don't want to drag him all the way from Conway here, just for a meeting when all of us can get here and do it as a Zoom.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so
I'll set
Zoom
that up.
meeting next Tuesday, budgetary meeting the following 2 weeks.
As far as the Historical Society budget, they asked for 5,000 last year because they were replacing a roof.
We gave it to them,
They got it.
They should be brought back $1,200 unless there's,
right?
Okay.
Hey, I'm sorry, but am I doing something procedurally incorrect?
No, we got it all. I was concerned about the library because I didn't mention that.
Oh,
Just to make sure I got it all. And,
Yeah, you do your presentation, then you do your public hearing.
Oh, we're good.
I'd just like to ask a question. I'm not a financial person by any stretch of the imagination. And I guess I'm a little concerned about overburdening our administrative assistant. And I know when I was living in Plymouth, I was on the budget committee for the town for a while. Would it be helpful to you if there were like a finance committee or a budget committee to help do these type? I know we're a small town, but just try to maybe spread the load a little bit.
no,
No,
it's
These guys
fairly
have already
simple.
done their budgets, they're
Right.
already written up,
Yeah.
they're ready to go.
You need
I just throw it out as I've just thrown it out as a concern and give you, okay,
But Linda, if you need any help, just ask.
I certainly will.
as far as the warrant articles themselves, last year we just started with a previous years and modified the numbers and
I've already done that actually. So it's only,
Linda's staying at it.
it's only, I have all the warrant articles written, just to plug in the numbers and for anything extra that we need, that we'll, have to discuss during budget meetings.
We're gonna do the final budget meeting at the school probably, maybe expecting more people.
Yeah, we can
Socially
s-
distanced in the
we-
gym or something.
We
be
can
spread
set a
out.
date for that.
that's gotta
Yeah.
be posted too.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
We can set a date for that on 12/1. Is that okay?
The next meeting, no sense in rushing. Okay, on setting the tax rate for 2020, everybody has had the 2-page form to review just to, do you have it? Everybody's reviewed it? Okay, good. The Department of Revenue, in this paper that you're reviewing, this was put on Facebook page, the town bulletin board, so everybody in town has reviewed it. And if there's any questions on the YouTube people, they should call in on it.
Are these 2 pages on The internet,
Yes.
they're
they're-
wrong. They're full of errors.
Okay, well, it is on the internet. Okay. There's a
Can
lot of errors on the internet.
I tell you what the errors are?
No, because I wanna just run the meeting. Okay. The Department of Revenue Administration, the DRA, has set the town's tax rate for 2020 at $25.76. The figures used to calculate the tax rate, and this is an informational 2 pages, to calculate the tax rate come from what the town reports to the state. The things that they report to the state are municipal and school appropriations, number 1, the town's revenue, 2, and the amounts used from the fund balance, that's 3. The net total of these amounts, plus the county tax and state education tax, is the amount the town needs to collect in taxes. That's the tax commitment of the town. The tax commitment is then divided by the total assessed value of taxable properties. That's what Avatar was doing.
That statement is wrong. That statement is
On
wrong.
the tax rate. Could you just let us have a meeting?
What?
The tax rate breakdown is municipal is 32.9%, county is 7.3%, local education is 51.4%, state education is 8.4%. So as far as the budget, you can see that the town only controls 32.9% of the total expenditures from the taxes. The select board does its best to ensure that the spending is kept to an absolute minimum to help keep our taxes as low as possible. The school budget controls 51.4% of the budget. I recommend strongly to people observing on YouTube that they get involved with the school's budgeting process because you may have some valuable insight and cost savings. As far as the fund balance, the fund balance is what you retain from the revenue less all expenses. The balances carry over from year to year. You may want to think of this as a savings account.
That statement is wrong.
The town can use the fund balance to pay for large commitments and budget reductions through approved votes and warrant articles.
That
The
statement is wrong.
select, would you not disrupt?
No, I'm gonna make the public aware of these. If you're gonna tell people things wrong, I'm gonna let them know.
Okay. The select board also has the authority to directly reduce the calculated tax rate. In 2019, the select board used $100,000 from the fund balance to reduce the tax rate by approximately $1, giving a town tax rate of $23.22. This left the remaining fund balance of $458,945 to be carried over to
That number
2020.
doesn't agree with what you got from the DRA on the paper.
In 2020, it does. In 2020, your opinion is welcome.
In your
but
opinion, it's
it-
fact. Look on
it's your- these numbers, I'm not gonna get in an argument in the
the
middle of the
458
presentation.
is not on your DRA report.
These numbers were taken from the DRA.
Wrong.
In 2020, by warrant articles, the town voted to use $121,577,000 of the fund balance, and after all projected activity in 2020, the fund balance is now $431,570. The state requires a town to retain between 5 and 17% of the total expenditures as of the fund balance. That's a state law. The town's policy in the past has been to retain 8 to 10%. If we use the average of, say, 9%, the minimum fund balance we would need to retain is $285,000. The difference of $146,570 does not leave much room for possible 2021 warrant articles to pay for equipment and bridges, etc. Using fund balance to reduce taxes weakens the town's financial position. The select board will make a decision on using any part of the fund balance. It shall also be noted that the town voted at the last town meeting for additional veterans and elderly tax credits to reduce the amount of taxes collected in 2020 by $35,900. This impacted the tax rate and will continue to do so in the future and may actually increase based on newly eligible taxpayers. Now, when it comes to capital reserve, the capital reserves are the amounts appropriated by the town to fund equipment purchases, vehicles, building improvements, etc. They are part of the town's budget. The funds are managed by the trustees of the trust fund. And I'm just trying to make this instructional so people, citizens of the town, know exactly how it's being done. The town's capital reserves total is $1,178,261 as of this date. The capital reserves may be used through approved vote warrant articles, and that'll happen at the town meeting. The select board can vote to use certain capital reserves that are designated as an expendable trust for emergencies and other necessary reasons. And the town may have to use capital reserves to fund failing equipment. We've had to obviously scrap the vibratory compactor. We need to replace the backhoe this year at $126,000. And a town truck replacement, the international truck that we have now, costs us about $60,000 a year for repairs. So, we've got to really work to do a warrant article to replace that truck, which is gonna go to the tune of $186,000. Okay, yes.
Just going back to the reduction of the amount of taxes in 2020 for that veterans tax exemption, you sounded like you said a different number than what I have on my sheet here. What was the number that you had?
Yeah, you said 39 something on the sheet says.
I may have
That's
been-
the increase over 2019. The total was 48.
He said it. Okay. I didn't see the number what he was talking about on here. That's all.
You wanna read it?
Well,
You know what?
you're reading from a different document.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I
This
got
is-
you.
Your number didn't match what we have, that's all.
This is 48,500.
Oh, yeah, it's 48,000. You know what? I apologize, because I read off of the first one you did today, this morning.
As far as
The one that is accurate is the one on Facebook. I apologize for that. I just got so many pieces of paper here.
As for the surplus fund balance, the town is not obligated or forced to keep any amount in that surplus fund balance. There's a recommendation that you not go below $158,000, and if you read the paper that tells you what you've got for surplus fund balances, they recommend that you have 2 months' worth of your total expenses for the year in that surplus fund balance.
This is
It's
the
2.5.
letter that we got from the DRA, and here, current retained amount. And it's just got here the description and what's required.
Well, on the first page of that report, you got a total expenditure of over $2.5 million. If you divide that by 6, 2 months, you get 2 months worth,
Okay.
you get $419 that you should keep in the surplus
Our
fund
goal,
balance.
our goal at this meeting is to set the tax rate, not to argue about numbers.
I'm talking about what you've got to deal with. You got
Now,
$419,000 recommended, you got
I'm gonna make
$431
a
to play with.
motion right now that we pick a number of how much we're gonna retain. I'm gonna recommend that we accept the DRA's tax rate of 2576. And that's open to discussion.
You're recommending that we not use any surplus fund at all?
Yes, because we have a massive
For
amount
your
of commitment
information,
coming
I
up.
agree. For your
Yes.
information, I agree.
Right. We have 2 bridges that we're in the process of getting ready to redo. We've got a bridge on East Side Road that's recently been posted, and it's not even gonna take a fire truck going across it, so that's a disaster.
I was just gonna ask that question, actually.
Right. And so we have a lot of financial commitment coming up in 2021. Our financial position is weaker because we've made some questionable choices on equipment in the past. We've made, good faith gestures for the veterans, but there's a cost to it. We've made good faith gestures in trying to decrease the tax rate last year. But we're about to get hit with a tsunami of issues. And I think we've got to be able to be in a financial position to address it. If we accept this tax rate of $25.76, looking at the value of the town's properties, the average town household's tax rate is going to go up around $200 to $300. That's significant. But right now, we're faced with some big problems coming up. Go ahead.
I agree with you, and I'm going to tell you why I agree with you. It's because there was a point in this town where they had lowered the rate, and we had incoming people who thought that's what they should do every year. And if you look in the books between 15 and 17, what you had left over and the ability to reduce the rate
Right.
went down drastically. And then you had the 2017 floods, and they were scrambling for money to come up with. So I agree with the decision that you're making, and it was something that previously I had asked that they put a cutoff limit where if it went over a certain limit, then you might look into that. But I agree wholeheartedly with the decision.
Yeah, and part of the guideline for me is this last page of the DRA, the tax rate breakdown, and we go through a list, and you guys have gone through this. And that's what made the decision. It would be nice to decrease the tax rate, but we're gonna really be strapped. And the thing is that an international truck, I can't guarantee in my mind that thing's gonna last the winter. And if it doesn't, then what do we do next? Because we're not gonna be able to get a new truck till next fall.
We'll be lucky if we have one next fall.
Yeah.
But, and that's if it gets voted through at the meeting in March.
Right.
Would you inform us, the people, that what we had decided pretty much as a group last night?
Yeah, I read that in there. The backhoe we were gonna take out of the capital reserves
Yep.
from the road agent, and that's $126,000.
128.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, I just wanna make sure people don't think we're pulling fast enough. No, I'm saying, when I put it down in the warrant article, that's okay.
The truck, and we've had multiple committee meetings, I don't know the exact number, but we've had people in the community that are used to using heavy equipment. Francis has come because he's good with numbers. We've had a cross spectrum of the entire community at these meetings with insight. We've looked at 3 pieces of equipment for a truck. We've chosen, I think, a high quality brand. It's a little more expensive, but our goal with this thing is to keep it 7 years for the lease process, and it's a Western Star, so that's gonna probably be able to, when we own it afterwards, we'll be able to run it probably another 7 years.
Did they send you the figures that I asked for?
I have them.
What would be the monthly annual payment on the, I predicted 33,000, but I asked for an exact figure.
Let me see, Francis, I got everything printed out here, because I knew you were asking. So, this is total. As they said we should buy the extended warranty for the engine and the
This is gonna be a
regen
warrant
system.
article for the town.
Right.
Yes.
This brought everything up to 185,000 approximately, right?
It looks like a 7-year payment's gonna be $29,310.
That was high.
$29,310.20, which is about $5,000 more than we're paying for the Freightliner we bought in 2014.
with the extended warranty.
And on that
This
basis,
is with the extended warranty, and this is also, the extended warranty also comes with the towing. You remember last night I talked about towing a lot? Towing only covers $450, and I talked to Charlie on the phone today, and I told him I was not impressed that if this truck breaks down and we gotta tow it to Lebanon, it's a $2,000 tow. And I told him I was not impressed with the $450, that's all they'll pay. And I just told him that if this truck breaks down in the first year and it has to be towed to a dealership, that I'm not paying, so. I said, I refuse.
Okay, hang on. He was supposed to talk to his boss
yeah,
about, Christ, I'm going back,
Um,
I'm going to too many meetings.
What he was gonna talk to his boss about was ordering the truck before we actually it got approved
Yes.
in the town meeting, so that we could possibly have it by next July maybe.
Yeah,
So his boss has not answered me. He's thinking about it. If this truck doesn't get ordered till March, we'll be lucky to see it by next spring.
okay, wait a minute, he had his hand up first.
Is there any way we could put in a lease agreement that, or, I mean, has he come back with anything on the tow part? Like, you
No,
ever heard
no, it
anything
is
on
what
that?
it is. He said, I can't do anything.
Nothing
I really
to do
don't
with
think they would, I don't think they'd make us pay towing charge.
Okay, come
Okay.
on.
Alright, so-
We're trying to set a tax rate.
Yep.
So,
I don't think that, figure $50,000 for the payment. There's a wrinkle here that ought to be worked into the matter, and I got a solution, I hope. If that's $29,000, we're already paying $24,000, and that's not the last payment, we've got one more payment of $24,000. We can't do anything about that, but I suggested, and you seemed to think it was a good idea last night,
this is on the international?
Right.
the one that's remaining.
Yeah, the red one.
And
Freight.
take, instead of putting $25,000 into the capital reserve fund like was done this past year, skip it for 1 year, so as to compensate for the $24,000 we still gotta pay. And that way you won't be skyrocketing by another
I think that's probably
$33,000.
something you should bring out at a budgeting hearing meeting
Yeah,
and let people discuss that.
I think, Francis, on a superficial, I think that's a good idea, I just don't understand it enough.
You don't understand what?
I don't understand the full concept of what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with it. I think it's probably a good idea. But our goal here is the tax rate meeting. That is gonna be something for the budgetary meeting.
All right. I just think you're gonna put up warrant articles, we gotta get going now.
Help me with that? You understand?
I had a
Am I
different
making
comment.
my point? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
You all set then?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna come at this from a different angle. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, because I haven't heard anyone do that yet. So, for one, I'm gonna say that I didn't go to these committee meetings. I've been too busy, so if I'm gonna repeat or go over anything,
Which
That-
committee meetings now?
the ones you're talking about,
The equipment
the
meetings.
equipment meetings.
Yeah.
I didn't go, so if I'm repeating things you guys have talked about, I apologize. I feel like our first priority and goal as selectmen is to make sure that we don't see this in the tax rate. And that's something that I've heard a lot of people talk about, and I just,
I think the first goal of the select board is to manage the town.
well, okay, so let me continue.
I mean, Tax rate is one of those things.
But I'm looking at it now, okay, just think about, so we're talking about, all summer you talk about a backhoe. We need a backhoe, backhoe's broken, you know, it is what it is. But then we get into the fall and it's like, oh, the truck is crap, I mean, you need a truck. But you have to also remember that we're in a global pandemic. We have possible looming shutdowns in this state and across the country that's gonna affect the economy for everyone. And to have the tax rate go up $2.50 in, this word gets thrown around all the time, unprecedented times, and looming additional cases, and depending on who ends up being president and what gets shut down and what doesn't, just plain devil's advocate here, I'm not sure having a $2.50 increase at this time is something that we should be doing. And I think that doing that, and I understand the equipment, and I understand the problems that come with it.
Increase it in this time?
Well, my point is that
You
to
gotta
buy
take- you
two
gotta
brand
tax
new
people.
pieces of equipment during this time and to raise taxes at a time when things are tight for a lot of people. I know we said that $200 or $300 is the average, but 50% of the town is gonna pay quite a bit more than that. And that, you know, the lower end of that 50% is struggling right now.
50% that are gonna pay more than $200 to $300 can take it as a tax deduction against the federal taxes, because they itemize their taxes.
I'm just saying
It's
that
people that don't itemize their taxes that are gonna take the hit.
there's a lot of people out there that, and then again, depending on future conditions, no one here can say anything for sure about what's gonna happen that's coming up. So as far as leaving extra money in the fund balances, I think is probably a good idea. And I'm just gonna, not one person here has said it yet, so I'm gonna say it is, I'm not sure we should buy two brand new pieces of equipment right now. I always think long-term, but sometimes surviving the short term is a long-term strategy. And if we overspend and then more unforeseen things come down the line, you know, the financial predicament that we're in now may not be, it may be a lot worse. And then it's gonna be worse on everybody else. And
Jeff?
I would try to get a feel from the town, I guess, and we've done this in
Well,
the
I thought we
past.
were doing a warrant article.
We've done, the warrant article isn't gonna give you a feel, it's gonna get shot down.
Okay.
If you go for two pieces, one of those pieces will get shot down.
And we'll
Just
already
like
not
that
have to
feeling.
use the money
Yeah.
out of the balances to drop the rate,
We're
which is what we're
buying-
talking about.
He's buying one out of his budget, his capital reserve in his budget.
Okay.
No increase in taxes there.
No increase in taxes
And
there,
the other one is gonna be leased.
and the other one is leased.
Okay.
Jeff?
I'm
The
listening.
international truck is not, it's gonna shit the bed.
I understand.
You're not gonna get two brand new pieces of equipment voted at town meeting, like.
And I feel the same way. And I think George is right that way.
People are
I'm
be
gonna
upset.
speak up and say that I said exactly what they said last night at the meeting, did I not? Did I exactly say what they said? And people are gonna ask me, what do you need more? That's gonna be the question,
It's gonna be pick one.
and I'm gonna pick a truck. And cross your fingers, the backhoe stays working, because you can always enter into a lease as a selectman if something happens to the backhoe again. However, I just will say that we are on borrowed time with the backhoe, but the truck over the last 3 years has cost the town over $60,000.
That's a financial.
in
drain.
maintenance.
And I'm not picking on anybody here, but this is a lack of maintenance issue. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is, I will tell whoever you want me to, it is lack of maintenance on the backhoe and on that international truck. That's all there is to it.
But the situation is we have two compromised pieces of equipment.
You know, you can take them both to a warrant article. I said exactly what Jordan said last night at the
Well, man,
meeting.
we're not taking them both to a warrant article.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah.
Do you,
They both have to go to a warrant article.
if it's coming out of that,
Capital.
Capital reserve?
that's still a warrant article.
It's a warrant article.
Doesn't have to, but good faith.
right, gotcha, alright.
The point for tonight's meeting though with the tax rate
Yep.
is that we're talking about how much money we're gonna take out of these fund balances to knock down the tax rate based on the assumption that we're buying two brand new pieces of
No,
equipment
no,
in
no,
March.
no, I'm not making that assumption.
No.
But we're not
That's
taking
invalid.
money out.
That's an invalid assumption. I think tax rate needs to be up because I think our fund balance is insufficient.
I think in a normal year, that would make sense. I just think this year is just completely different, and I think at town meeting, I think you're gonna find out that
And
much,
then-
many more people are not gonna wanna go for that.
And then you have two bad storms, and you depleted it. And this is
It's
what,
gone.
see, it becomes like candy. We keep pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down, and then you have nothing. When all of a sudden it goes up to push it downward. My thing was you make a cap. This is what I encourage the selectmen. Make a cap to which, if it stays, like I said, $25 per thousand, make a cap there. If it goes over, adjust it accordingly. But as long as it stays at 25 or under, you let it naturally sway back and forth, because that has to do with the taxpayers, with what they vote for. And you need to understand that relation and not get hooked on decreasing and then having a whole lot of bad stuff happen and not having any money.
No, that's why I'm talking about not
Right.
overextending
right.
in the short term,
Right.
because that will happen.
And it did happen.
And if we buy two pieces of equipment and we end up being tight, and then people don't pay because they're not working again, which happened just within the last year, then we're in a real bad situation.
Which is why I said that, because the more money we keep in.
I think Francis is gonna ask the same
Let
question.
me explain why I approved the 276. Under certain conditions. Number one, the $128,000 for the backhoe is no additional tax cost next year to the taxpayer.
Correct.
Number one. Number two, this truck is gonna cost call it $30,000, he said 29.
Yep.
Call it $30,000. All right, we've also got a $24,000 payment on the old truck. That'd be $54,000 that you gotta raise in taxes between those two. What I'm suggesting is to take the $25,000 that would ordinarily be raised in the capital reserve and put into the capital reserve, and not put it into the capital reserve this year, thereby compensating for the $24,000 that's already being paid for one of the trucks. The only tax increase to the town for these two vehicles next year would be I keep saying 33.
That's right.
$30,000. That's the only increase
So,
next year. And there's another thing you need to consider too. If there is any surplus in any of the budgets that you've already got for this year, let's say that you come in with $40,000 extra in the highway budget.
Yep.
That $40,000 by a vote from the floor or included in the warrant article could be said to use the $40,000 to reduce the tax rate. So, in light of the desperate need for two vehicles,
It's pretty desperate.
and you don't want to reduce that surplus fund balance because you're going to have to work on some bridges here. Surplus fund balance is not cash flow. Surplus fund balance only exists one day a year, December 31st of the year. We don't have a surplus fund balance for 2020 yet because 2020 is not over. And it won't be set by DRA until about 6 to 9 months after that. I'm in favor of the two vehicles on the basis of the fact it will cost an additional $33,000 to the town. I keep saying $30,000 to the town.
Thank you.
Pardon my ignorance, but if there's people that are having problems with their taxes, such as through lost jobs or elderly, aren't there procedures in place to assist them?
Yes.
So they would not be dramatically affected. The people that you're talking about with losing their jobs or financial difficulties wouldn't be as
This
affected.
board bends over backwards with Deb Zimba too.
The
Right.
point is though, is that if they're not making their payments, we're not taking that money in. So you're talking about not taking in the money that we're accounting and spending too. So that's what I'm talking about. It's not just about that, which it's still, to make someone go and do that, you know,
What
it's
are some
hard
of the other
times.
options?
It's just tough.
Say again?
What are some of the options of those that can't afford it?
We set up payment plans, which they sign contracts to. And, you know, and we extend it out. I mean, as long as
You
somebody,
as selectmen are prepared to bend over backwards, I hope.
yes, we are.
They
And we
also
do.
pay interest on those loans too, though.
But it doesn't,
So it gets hard to catch up. We see lots of people that are 5 years behind that never catch up because they have compounding interest on 5 years.
You can't bid men on.
but it's 2 years. If they don't pay for 2 years, that's when we get involved.
It takes 2 years to get us involved. Okay. Let's just take a deep breath here. I mean, there's a lot of issues. Okay. And the one thing, everybody in this room is trying to find out what's best. As far as the equipment decisions, we bent over backwards to include all facets of the community.
I know
Okay.
that. I'm just,
And so I think we did our due diligence to look at the town and get input on the decision making. Go ahead.
Homer, you've been kind of quiet.
Because I'm sick
Like to
over
hear.
this, okay? The town people made a decision at the last town meeting. They voted in to spend a lot of money. The townspeople that were there made that decision. You make a decision,
Live with it.
you gotta live with it. I'm not at all happy with a $25.74 tax rate. I am not, because I know there are people in this town, there are some people that will not go out and seek help. They're too proud, okay? There are elderly people in their homes, they would rather sit in their rocking chair with a blanket over them than ask for heating aid, okay? Chief, you may get a call from, or Chief Trot would get a call saying, well, I haven't heard from my mother-in-law in, 2 weeks.
So Omar, what are you gonna do?
I'm thinking about that. I mean, these are a whole bunch of things that I'm
We-
thinking. That's why I wanted to move.
Time out. We've had this DRA rate for at least 2 weeks. We gotta make a decision.
And I called the DRA lady,
Okay.
and I talked with her.
Because this has to be done in a timely fashion, because Deb Zimmer needs to send bills out for this town. It's gonna take a month for those bills to go out, it's gonna take another month for it to come back in. And the town's gonna go into a huge cash flow problem in December.
When did the tax bills go out last year? You don't,
December,
Yeah, they were
You
due
waited till December?
Christmas.
they go out at December, they always do.
That's your normal.
first of December and due by the end.
Okay.
That's why everybody gets so upset about it.
Christmas.
I'm not, if my bill's gone up, I'm not happy, I've already figured it out.
Yeah.
No, it's a killer. That number's a killer for a lot of people.
I agree with that, but on the same token, if something else bad happens, and this could be.
Let me have a little rebuttal about this something else bad. Remember that, yes, you're gonna take money from your general fund
Correct,
to assist any emergencies.
right.
But you're also gonna get back 75% of that from FEMA going back into your general fund. Okay? You gotta think about it that way.
Are you talking about the bridges, Jeff? Are you talking about?
Any-
Heating assistance?
No, I'm talking about anything to do with floods, disasters,
Oh,
and that's
right,
what
right.
Kay was talking about.
Well, not that it makes anything
You
better.
don't get it
And somebody's
instantly.
gotta pay it
Takes a
upfront.
long
FEMA
time.
takes a while.
Which
to
is
come.
coming from your general fund.
No, not that it makes any better, but we should very soon be able to get money from FEMA for our engineering costs. It should be right around the corner.
Okay.
Whatever we have paid for engineering.
There's so many, look, there's a lot of promised money.
No, I know, I'm
Right
just
now-
saying.
We're up against the wall as far as the town numbers, okay? That's reality. We gotta take a vote, we gotta determine a rate here for this, whether we're gonna accept this rate or just cannibalize the funds to try and decrease the rate. That's penny wise and dollar foolish. I mean, I never did any municipal business at all. I've always been private industry. This would be a stupid decision to not keep your capital reserves up.
If you can. Sometimes when you're in business, Mr. Chairman, you exhaust all of your money if you want to keep your employees,
Right.
if you wanna maintain your equipment, and then you run out, and then there comes a point where
Yeah, there's no sense.
you go bankrupt.
Right.
You go back, and we don't have
And the
that option to
town
go
is-
bankrupt.
well, the town can go bankrupt, yes.
The other options, and we've used these options in the past, and Francis Farmer, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have the ability, this town has the ability to give a very low interest rate bank note, and we've done this multiple times over the years for emergencies, for other items.
We haven't done it for quite a while,
But
yes.
it does have to do.
You know what, I'm gonna be operating like Washington
Money you
DC.
have.
We'll go into debt.
But you're doing what you have
Spending,
to
for
do.
God's sakes,
You're
you know,
doing what
that's,
you have to
you
do.
wanna do that?
You have to do what you have to do, right?
What about splitting the difference? From last year's tax rate to the current proposed tax rate is a $2.54 difference. What about splitting that so the tax rate still goes up to help with the capital reserve fund, but not so bad that it's going to be such a hit to people?
The
What
money,
would be the amount of money you'd have to take to
the
do
money
that?
that you do,
$125,000.
And the amount that would be left over?
the money you do use does not come from a capital reserve fund. It comes from an imaginary figure that was computed by DRA, good for only December 31st of 2019.
That's the part I don't know.
And it doesn't have anything to do with cash flow, although the higher the surplus fund balance, the better the cash flow should be. No guarantee.
I get that part. I just don't-
Okay.
Hey, I have a question. So, does anybody, Linda probably knows, what is the actual amount of money if we go to our 9% and we drop down to that? How much money could we actually put down? Or even if it was 10 or 11%, how much could we actually put down?
Like
What's the
Francis
number?
said, it's imaginary. We have a proposed preliminary retained fund balance of $431,570. The numbers that Arnie reported are correct. If we set aside 9% of the total expenses
Yeah,
that were incurred this year to date and proposed for the rest of the year, we would have to retain call it 285,000.
so what's that
That
difference?
would give you 9% good retention. The difference between what we currently have on the books, not actual cash, but on the books, 431 minus, we would need 125,000 to reduce the tax rate by about $1.25, which is half of the 250. It would leave us 315, of which 285 is like a minimum. So, what's the difference there? That gives you $30,000.
That's 30,000
for
more than
emergency.
the town typically holds. So we could drop it easily by $1.25 and still be at
What
what
do
we
you,
normally are.
what do you mean by what the town typically holds?
Well, you
What's your
just said that
average?
we hold 8 to 10%, 9% is 285. You just said we have 3 something.
How was your
After,
tax?
after dropping it by 125 is what you said, right?
That's what we would have, and that only gives you $30,000 of wiggle room.
I think Kay's point is this town is used to having, be spoon-fed on their tax rate.
Have what on your tax rate?
That's not my point. I asked them to set that rate when they got into trouble, and trust me, they were grabbing at pennies here, can we do this, we gotta call this
We
guy.
don't- That's what we're gonna be
And,
funding
and,
next
and
year.
this,
We don't do this
the
right.
danger side of it is, I don't know what the budget's gonna be next year, maybe you do.
I don't.
But if you lower the rate and they vote through a bunch of stuff, is that rate going to cover what is getting voted through? And this is,
Right.
that's where it gets into trouble, and then you go the next year and you do the same thing, and they do the same thing all over again. And then you get slammed with something like happened in 2017, and yeah, don't have anything, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and yes, you get 75%, but how many years does it take to
2017,
get
I
it?
had civilians volunteering
I know,
It
my-
takes a
actually,
long
My
time.
family was out doing it.
Right.
So I think
And
my
that's what
argument
I'm
is
sure
is
now.
screwed
And
about.
you can't help
No, I know.
anybody else if you don't have.
It takes a long time if it's.
My
Well,
point
we won't
is
go there.
that if
I know,
we
I
have
know, I know,
$135,000
But this is what
taken
my
off,
point is.
if you split the
And if
difference
you look
there,
in your
and the
tax
town's not gonna
reports,
vote for two pieces
you
of
can
equipment,
watch
and you
the
take the
amount of
money from
money
one
you
of
have
them,
going
you can
up.
drop the rate a dollar
Well,
without.
can I just
inflating it.
say one more
I do have a
thing
question.
about,
He's had his question.
oh,
I'm sorry. I would like to know what the town's average in the general fund has been for the past 10 years. My guess is going to be that you're looking at $300-some odd thousand for the last
I'd say
10
close
years.
to 450.
I'd just like to see what we had, because that will give you an idea of where to
Not
go.
now.
Okay.
And how does that
Do you have an answer
imaginary
to that?
figure work?
oh, I don't have an answer for the average of the past 10 years.
No, I know, I'm just thinking that that would give you an idea.
That's all it tells you.
I just want to say something about the bridges. I don't know when this first one is going to be done, the first one. We're going to have to come up with money in 2021.
Yeah.
Okay. What, just on the first one, and this is the one that's getting the state aid,
Right.
we owe a $45,000 payment.
Right.
Now, if we don't put that in a warrant article to say, I mean, that's what that agreement is, that I was gonna have you sign tonight, but we have to talk about it with Chris. If we put that in, there goes your fund balance.
Not if we don't buy an extra piece of equipment.
No,
I'm only
no,
talking
those
about
extra
less
pieces of
stuff.
equipment.
Taking
You're
less
putting the
off.
two things together. I'm just trying to set the tax rate.
Well, that's what I'm talking about though, because whether you're gonna purchase equipment and commit more money, and we're not gonna take that money out, then that affects the tax rate. See, I think you're misreading me. I'm talking about being in the middle. Tamsin talked about being in the middle of where it's at now and where it was last year, which was still an increase by, I think, $1 or more. So you're talking in a 2-year span, being up like 350 or more in a 2-year span. I'm talking about the middle ground of one piece of equipment and some money out of these funds to lessen the blow
Okay, so
and be
the
more
issue-
financially secure long term.
You've got bridges to worry about.
Right, those bridges.
The bridges.
Can I just say something, Jordan? I know it's gonna be tough to buy two pieces of equipment, but buying the two pieces of equipment that we have decided is not gonna do anything for the tax rate. It's not gonna make it go up.
Right.
Here, it's gonna
But that's,
it's gonna
we're
take
gonna
you
use
a
this
really
money
good
for
short.
that we're not gonna take out.
You're taking
keep
money
saying-
out of your
33,
trust funds.
Gonna be
Right,
30 cents on the
So,
basis
so
of
that
that.
money's been sitting there
It's
collecting
gonna go up
interest, so it's not gonna.
$5,000 more
Okay,
And
because
that's
of the
fine.
difference of the rental, the
It's only a
lease.
$30,000.
I'll have
Well,
that.
this one's gonna be 29,000 a year.
Any increase is an
Right,
increase,
but we're
whether
not
it's
paying
30,000,
24 for the
20,000,
equipment. So it's gonna
10,000,
be-
it's an increase.
We're gonna still have to be paid the 24, so the 29 is additional. But if we don't put the 25 into the capital reserve,
Okay.
That's right.
That's
And,
where I was
and I also wanna make you aware that
So it's
in the
actually-
final year of a lease payment, you can pay the final year of a lease, which we're in the final year of our lease payment for our Freightliner, you can pay it out of a capital reserve fund. Only the final year. I'm just saying,
If we have.
If you have the vote from the town.
no, if it's expendable like this.
The expendable,
Yeah. I'm just saying you can.
But I don't know if Francis explained it totally, all right, on the equipment. If the backhoe doesn't cost anything, it comes out of capital reserves, we have the money there. I could write a check out for it today.
for 25, for 1 year, you mean?
No.
The
No,
backhoe,
okay.
I could write a check for
Buy the whole thing.
135 or whatever it is,
Okay.
right now, and buy a backhoe. The second one, we normally, through our budget process, we put 25,000 in a capital reserve account, plus we budget 25,000 for the lease payment for the Freightliner. So if they get into a lease agreement, we're still gonna budget the 25,000 for the Freightliner, but we don't have to budget the 25,000 to put into the capital reserve. So it's costing really nothing. Our budget will remain the same, it's gonna cost an additional $5,000.
Assume the other things don't apply.
That's not much.
But it's basically a wash, it's basically not gonna cost the people, the taxpayers, any money.
Any
So,
extra,
any extra. So, but we do need that reserve in the fund balance account as we get that meeting with Chris Fournier, so we can come to a closer understanding of what we're gonna need in 2021. I know we're gonna need the 45, and then the Rocky Road Bridge, the Crossroad Bridge. If we're not getting, state aid, that's 185,000. So you're gonna have the 185 plus the 45 for just that bridge. And if it's gonna be completed in 2021, we're gonna have to write a warrant article for that as well.
I'm a little confused about the 185,000 that you said you're not going to get.
Yeah,
The state aid is 185,000,
Yeah.
or the FEMA aid is
Nope.
185,000?
There it is, two things.
I haven't been to those meetings, I haven't gone there.
You
The
can't
bridge
help
is
it.
costing on the crossroad?
The state aid, if both bridges are gonna cost about the same, we don't know yet,
Ish.
all right?
I think there's
every difference in
a couple
There- This is it, Jeff. The share of the state share is 180, this is against Westland, we owe 45.
Mhm.
Crossroads, we're not gonna get the 80, or 180.
Well, we don't know what the crossroad bridge is going to
Well,
cost us.
we're kinda estimating them to be similar in price.
We have a couple of different
It's
options.
not gonna be a great
I
big
don't-
difference.
No.
It's
I
gonna
didn't
be
know they were
a
stacked up.
big chunk of change, and you're gonna need that fund balance.
Aren't we getting reimbursed for that too, and that money comes back
Yeah,
to
you
you
have to
as
pay in
well?
advance.
No, but this doesn't even count the fee. I mean, FEMA's saying 675,000.
Yeah.
For the Fresco bridge.
Yeah, and we don't know how much the other one is yet,
Are
but
we
it's
not gonna
right
get money
up
back
there.
soon from the engineering though? Were we just
Right.
discussing about getting money
The
back?
crossroad bridge initially was not supposed to have anywhere near the expense of the Fresco, my understanding, when we started out with this whole program with FEMA.
Oh, I thought they were similar.
I think,
I thought it was similar
Pretty
construction.
close.
Unless you tie your hands,
there's like
now,
I thought it was close to
I don't want
200,000.
Government aid.
you're gonna have a hard time paying for those bridges in advance, and then even if you get a refund on it. So right now,
We're caught between a rock and a hard place.
I know,
Big
but,
rock.
you're gonna be worse, you're gonna be worse off if you have to borrow money.
Right.
Reserve for bridges.
So I'm gonna,
Yeah.
And then one more thing.
Okay.
You have two new vehicles. There is a budget for the present vehicles you have equivalent to the ones we're replacing. I don't know what those replacement numbers are, but I bet it's between $10,000 and $20,000. You only need about $5,000 to $10,000. Now you could buy new ones because you don't have the expectation of having to replace miscellaneous parts. So there's a savings there. Not much, but
well, it's a $60,000 saving if we can keep them on the road without breakdowns.
yes. Never mind the expenses of the last year.
Okay,
I don't like the 276 anybody else, but
I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the DRA's recommendation of 2576.
276.
$25 and
2576.
76.
To set your rate.
Say again?
Is that to set your rate?
Yeah, set the rate. That's the whole purpose right now. And then we've got
Then we'll
maneuver
hash
room
out
to
the
deal
budget.
with bridges and then we'll hash the budget out.
That's going to be an increase of about $250 to $500 on your tax bill for the year.
It's too high, yeah, it's gonna be too
However, this tax bill is going to be big higher because it's so much higher than your first half of the year. I figure probably your second bill will go up about anywhere from $200 to $600.
I thought they were supposed to be equal.
Mm-mm.
They would be if they use the same tax rate.
Right.
But this
I'm
is the
close
second,
to equal.
this is the second tax bill,
So there's a
and so it uses a new tax rate.
Right. Right.
Your next bill, first bill of 2020, should be the same as
This bill.
this bill.
Right. I just wanted to make sure.
It won't be, but it should be.
Yeah, I cringe when it shows up in the mailbox.
At Christmas, yeah, everyone loves that. Homer, thoughts? We don't have a second yet. I've been devil's advocate.
There's just so many things that are entering. You got $184,000 truck, you got $130,000 backhoe that's being paid for out of a fund balance that isn't gonna amount, isn't gonna
No.
account for anything.
Capital reserve.
Capital reserve.
Capital
but-
reserve.
Yeah, but it's not gonna be, it's money that's already there. It's money that's,
Right.
we've got, yeah. But the $184,000 for the truck, which is, I think, a little fancier than what we need, okay? I mean, when you got that padding in the back seat, I looked at the
That's
cab of
not,
the truck.
it-
I know, but
We have-
it's the cumulative
can we-
effect. Mr. Chairman, you interrupt me every time, sir, and I don't appreciate that. Would you like me to leave so you don't have to deal with me anymore, sir?
I'd like you to calm down.
Well, you never let me finish.
Why don't you
All year-
calm down and not get in an argument? We're trying to set a DRA, we're trying to set the tax rate for the
I
town.
can't even ask a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead and ask the
Without-
question.
Well, you cut me off every time,
Well,
Mr. Chairman.
excuse me. Come on. Grow up and act like a politician.
All right, thank you. That's the second time you've done that to me, sir. You don't need me here if you're gonna talk to me that way.
No, I just want you to participate.
And I've been listening, and when I ask a question,
Okay,
you
why
cut
don't
me
you
off.
sit down and finish your conversation? You're a grown man. You don't walk away.
You don't have a second to your motion evidently, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else want to speak?
There's no second to the motion?
Not
Do
at the
you,
moment.
what, you wanna make another motion?
No, I was just waiting. I wanted to hear his opinion because I've done more talking and been playing devil's advocate, and I was just trying to get a feel for the rest of the board.
I'd like to hear your
That's
opinion,
all.
Homer, myself. Just-
I was curious if I was gonna be the odd vote or not.
I've been patiently listening to the discussion. There's just been a lot of numbers that have been thrown around. I'm concerned about the people in the town being able to afford their taxes. And you're right, the second half of the tax is gonna be more. So I'm willing to go with half of the increase. I would like to make a motion that we go with, what's half of it? $1, increase it by $1.25?
You mean decrease?
It would be $1.27.
It's a decrease.
That means you gotta use $125,000 of the capital reserve.
Right.
Yeah.
Of
So you're
the-
gonna
of the
use the
fund
capital,
balance.
you're gonna use
Huh?
$125,000 of capital. reserve.
Yes, I'm sorry.
It has to,
Let me correct myself.
it's a big difference.
That means you're gonna have to use $125,000 of surplus fund balance.
I think there's multiple people talking at the same time right now.
Cause
Okay,
that's
hang
the
on, let's
most
just
important.
reestablish some order in the meeting. Hang on. Who's, okay, just finish your comment.
I was just asking is when you get done with this whole process, is there gonna be enough money left over for the payment that is due on the bridge?
Probably not.
And that is the most important thing, because that bridge has been going on since the 2017 floods, when they stated that it needed, and I used to drive over it, it needs to be fixed. And if this keeps dragging on, you've come very close, multiple times, if I'm not correct, Jeff, to nearly losing your funding.
No, we worked
And
very
this
hard.
is-
Hang on,
And this is, Jordan, why I'm going on my memory from the last, since 2013, and what I have seen occur. And what happens if you don't have a line for that payment, and you don't raise enough money to cover what people vote in at the next meeting?
If the town defaults on these bridges, we lose the family coverage, and then if there is a disaster in the future, the town is on the hook for the entire management. FEMA
It's
will
more
not
than
step
that.
in.
Let me finish. You're looking at, when you take it all cumulative, what happens to the tax rate
Do you agree
the
with what
next
is
year?
recommended?
I would like his work, but he's busy. When the town isn't able to pay for its things. Francis?
I'm sorry, I missed a few things here.
What happens to the town's tax rate if they don't raise enough this year to pay for what they vote in at the I hate the way it's all done, at the meetings, and they fall short, they can't pay the bridge payment, what happens to our tax rate then?
Doesn't change.
No, when you go to set it the next year. They vote a bunch of new stuff in. You've used some money from,
Well, if you go to the,
The town authorizes appropriation, you have to raise that amount of money less any revenue.
right.
And that's a guess too.
What I'm trying to get to, Francis, is what happened between 15 and 17 to the amount of money that they were able to offset. It actually went to zero, pretty much. They had very little.
When I was first selectman, there was a negative $50 surplus fund balance.
Okay, this is what I'm talking about, and this is where we don't want to go.
right.
And that comes from all of the things that we're discussing right now.
No, I have no intention of not paying our bills. I'm just,
It's not, it's got
Well, that's
nothing to
not
do
gonna
with paying
We're
the
not gonna be able
bills.
to pay
It's,
the bills without.
I'm just very concerned about upping it now. I'm just trying to make sure
no,
we're
I
exhausting the
understand what you're
options
talking about, Jordan. I
and being
don't,
thorough. And this is my first time doing this and throwing, these numbers are coming rapid fire.
no,
Just
I,
making sure, because when tax bills go up $500 or $600 at Christmas and pandemic and people ask me about it, I gotta be able to explain this, so I'm not,
right, and I've
just
been
further
where
discussion.
Omer said, where you were hanging on with business by your fingernails, waiting for the next blow. I do know about that.
Yeah.
But all of it also ties in, because you still have to pay taxes. It all ties into that, and you don't want that to shoot up and not ever be able to. And that's been my, go ahead.
Right?
Mr. Chairman, where there was no second to my motion, I withdraw my motion. Now, if I may have a follow-up to that, so I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I'm looking at the figures from the DRA that were provided to me by the town administrative assistant. There's a range of figures that are given. The current amount, and this has been discussed before this evening, the current amount retained is 13.65%, or $431,570. Right, Linda?
Correct.
Yeah.
And the lowest amount that the DRA, the minimum amount recommended by DRA that the town should be keeping is 5%, which is $158,120. 8% is the next figure above that. Again, these are the figures that have been provided to me that I've been ruminating over. That's a $252,992 amount that would be retained if it's at 8%. So the next amount, 10% retained, is $537,000. So I'm just, these figures are just, I gotta agree with you, Jordan. Figures are not my strong point, okay? So I'm just hearing figures being thrown over, and we gotta deal with the bridges, we gotta deal with the equipment that the highway department needs.
And the East Side Bridge is about to fail.
Yeah, and so we got a third bridge that's, and, you know, from what I can understand, the town is paying the price, the penalty, for things that weren't done over the last several years. And I want to do the right thing for all involved, and
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
On the first page that you got from DRA, there is a figure of $2,500,000 and some odd $1,000. That is the expenditures for the town, the county, the schools, and everything.
Right.
They recommend on that same page, and I can't quote it, but it's there, that you would keep 2 months of that in a surplus fund balance. It's quoted there by some accounting firm, right above the figure. that would figure that you should keep $419,000. You've got 431. That really means if you want to be safe, you better not put in more than $12,000, which isn't going to do a damn thing.
$12,000.
I don't follow your numbers at all.
And I really don't.
On the first page, there's a $2,500,000.
That is the tax effort.
That's.
Yes. And-
No, it,
and-
well,
And
the
DRA,
way DRA recommends is your total expenses, which are $3,162,000.
well, that makes it even higher than what I'm saying, but I'm going by that figure because that's the one they actually use. If you divide that by 6, you get $419,000 in change. That our accounting firm is saying you should keep $419,000 as our recommendation. I just said you can keep nothing. You can spend every damn bit of that surplus fund balance if you dare.
Well, we could run the town.
2 months, January and February, and part of March, you don't have any money for all practical purposes anyway. You're running on a non-existing budget. That's part of the reason for the 2 months.
Yeah.
The difference between 419 and 431 is negligible, and I don't think you
No.
should touch the surplus fund balance. Keep saying it.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Francis, that
Right.
we have to, we've got too much coming at us in the next year to not get prepared.
You want to know best
It's
you can
not
do
like-
is nickel and dime next year's budget.
Okay,
You gotta pick a, you gotta.
no,
pick
I
a-
know, I'm allowed to. So, I was just trying to be a different opinion, and I know everyone here
You
is
did a good job.
concerned, because we all know people who are, this is gonna hurt.
We're all in the same boat.
I know,
We
I'm getting to it. I'm just,
Some can afford to
until
put that
Ryan
up.
spoke up, no one was talking about that, so I was just trying to
You
make a
did.
different argument. But when I hear Francis, who I trust his opinion a lot, and Jeff and everybody else in the room that has done their homework, and knows more about this than me, so I'm smart enough to know that I should delegate to those people. So I will second the initial motion of accepting the state's recommendation, and then I'll sit there when the town yells at us for 6 or 7 hours in March.
Call the question,
I'll
Mr.
get a
Chairman.
pizza.
They voted again.
I know.
You have a motion and second now?
Yes.
You made it, it was your motion that he
Yes.
seconded.
Yes.
Okay, the motion I made was to accept the DRA's tax rate.
And I seconded that motion.
And the vote.
And I call the question. Vote.
Yeah, vote,
Okay. I vote yes.
yes.
I vote yes.
Can I say something now?
What?
I want to thank the board and Linda for working their way through these problems and the bridges and so forth that are coming up. You guys are doing a fantastic job.
It's
And
not-
somebody should tell you that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I second that.
I don't like what I just said. Encouraged.
I don't either, Francis.
No. Don't we all pay taxes?
Yes, we
We
do.
do, we try to.
Okay.
It's
Mr.
not
Stara.
such a going to a non-public.
You know what?
That can be seconded,
Say again?
the non-public can wait.
It's time for a drink.
That's not for glass of wine.
Jeff's house.
Regarding 2021,
Oh, right. That's for another time. Okay.
yeah,
Okay, I got it.
so it's not urgent.
If I use your figure, then it's even higher. The 3 million figure, 500,000, that's recommended.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's what it says.
That's not the figure they use, by the way. They use the 2.5, what do they call it?
There's a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn? I'm sorry.
No problem. Rebecca wasn't able to make it tonight. She just asked that I pass on that the DHHS has asked for volunteers of the health department, or the health officers, for contact tracing and interviews, and both she and I have opted out of that.
I have developed what?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, this voice is going out there too.
DHHS, Department of Health and Human Services, has asked the health officers in the state to volunteer their time for contact tracing for COVID-19
Okay,
and for interviewing. Both Rebecca and I have opted out of that and have not volunteered. And she asked that I explain to you the reason why, is because not all, there is no stipend for PPE for health officers. There is no reimbursement for the time that we'd have to put in, that you, the town is paying us for, the state is not. And in addition to that, the risk that we would incur, because some of the interviews would not be able to be done via Zoom, they would have to be in person, is not worth carrying that back to the town or to our
you know what?
families.
We don't have a lot of COVID in this town, I agree with you. You don't need to put yourself in that risk, okay?
Oh, thank you. She just asked that I
Yeah,
convey that
and
to you.
appreciate your candidness. Ah, okay, make the motion, we adjourn.
Second that.
All right,
Did you-
I vote yes.
Did you set the schedule for the
I vote yes.
department to present their budget?
Yes.
I'm gonna do it all on
all we're gonna come
February
in,
1st.